Naruto, God-level lottery powers unleashed. Like, share and subscribe. Episode 21. Although the three of Uchiha Mikoto won the first battle, they were actually more nervous in their hearts, because they knew that this was just a surprise effect, and it was only one person killed, and the other party had 9 subordinates. Can't be careless. At this moment, a figure rushed up from the rear, unexpectedly without any plan, and without saying a word, rushed towards the 9 ninjas. Hey, you! Uchiha Mikoto was stunned. Ninja fighting, pay attention to strength, but also pay attention to strategy. When our own strength is not as good as that of the other side, we should focus on strategic cooperation and seek breakthroughs. Such a disorderly rampage, not to mention that it will not be effective, but will completely disrupt the good start. Damn, is this guy looking for death? Narakuzu and Yasuyenta both clenched their hands in anger, and the little opportunity they had won was also destroyed. At the same time, the 9 ninjas on the opposite side let out disdainful and grim smiles after being slightly stunned. Before, he was careless and lost a companion. Now that you are ready, how can you get your wish again? Little ghost, I see that you are tired of living, dare to rush up like this. A ninja took a step forward, extremely fast, sharp ku-woo, directly penetrating the heart of the stars. Click, a crisp sound. The body that was pierced by the hole in front of him was like ice cubes, shattered inch by inch. You are also tired of living, dare to use a knife on me? Suddenly, a large hand penetrated and pressed directly on the ninja's face. How is it possible, you? Pung. Without waiting for the ninja's terrified words to shout, the powerful momentum almost crushed his face, and dragged it along the ground, marking a terrifying trajectory. Under the impact of the huge force, Xiao Shinobu was already blurred with blood and flesh, paralyzed at the feet of his companions, not knowing whether he was dead or alive. Ling Wu, sleeve white snow. The stars did not give the enemy any time to breathe, and took advantage of their consternation to step out of the air with their sleeves in hand. In an instant, a frozen cold aura spread across the 4 fields. Whoosh! With both hands waving the knife, the 4 people sealed their throats in an instant, and blood splashed everywhere. Uchiha Mikoto was shocked. In the blink of an eye, Xingchen alone actually killed 5 shinobi. Strategy is indeed important for teamwork, but if you have absolute strength, you can crush the other party. Strategy, it seems redundant. How can he be so powerful? Is he really a graduate of the same class as us? Narakuzu and Yao Nuyen were equally stunned. The 3 of them worked together perfectly to kill one. As soon as the people waved their knives, they destroyed 4 people. How can this efficiency be compared? Are the stars so powerful? Michiko and Uchiha never imagined that their teammates would be such a powerful character. Brother Xingchen is so great. The only one who was not surprised was Joshinai. After all, she had witnessed the stars kill an elite shinobi. Xingchen stood in the middle of the field with his sleeve in hand, and there seemed to be ice and snow currents lingering around his body, making his whole person look like he had a mysterious and unfathomable temperament. That's the only way. It's too disappointing, isn't it? The stars walked slowly, and wherever they went, the land would condense a layer of frost. There were still 4 shinobi left on the opposite side, but they were all scared by the stars. Are you a shinobi? Only as an opponent can you know the horror of the power of the stars and ice. They believe that this is a ninjutsu unique to the stars, and that to be able to use ninjutsu to this extent, only the upper ninjutsu can do it. But the 12-year-old Shangnan is also too devilish, right? You don't need to know. After the stars finished speaking, their eyes froze, and Bai Shui swung his knife again. Second dance, Bai Lian. The souls of the 4 subordinates all risked and fled. However, their speed was not as fast as the cover of ice and snow, and they directly turned into 4 ice sculptures. Xingchen took the knife and turned around. Click! The ice sculpture shattered, and the 4 ninjas seemed to have evaporated, and there were no bones left. Is this also ninjutsu? Uchiha Mikoto looked at the extremely beautiful snow in front of her and muttered to herself. The scuffle between the upper shinobi is large and intense. Therefore, Tsunade and Kato were unable to distract themselves from paying attention to the situation on the star side and went all out to meet the enemy. Fortunately, the 2 are not general, and their strength is also strong in the upper patients, although the other party has many people, but they do not take advantage of it at all. Abominable, withdraw. The leader of the upper ninja seemed to have found that the lower ninja on his side had been completely destroyed, and this side could not attack for a long time, and he was angry and corrupted, so he could only order a retreat. The other party retreated, and Tsunade and the 2 did not intend to chase, they cared more about their students. Mikoto, are you alright? Kato came to the 3 of Uchiha Mikoto, asked, and then glanced around. You guys won? Win. Uchiha Mikoto had already come to his senses and revealed a shy smile. But we didn't do much. It was all the credit of the stars alone. Kato glanced in the direction of the stars, only thinking that Uchiha Mikoto was a modest statement, and did not think much about it. Joshinai and Uzumaki Soma's daughter Uzumaki Shioi are playmates, and the 2 have stood together and chatted with each other. Phew. People were saved, and there was no damage on our side, which was considered complete. Tsunade said to Uzumaki Soma, do you want to go back to Konoha with us? Our home is also destroyed, so we would naturally be happy to settle in Konoha. Well, then let's start your journey right away, so as not to dream too much at night. A day later, they returned to Konoha. Tsunade let out a long sigh of relief and said to Xingchen, Xingchen, I will hand over the task with Shuago, and report the affairs of the Vortex country to Sarutobi-sensei. You will go back first. Got it. Xingchen nodded. Brother Xingchen, goodbye. Kushina waved at the stars and left with Tsunade. Xingchen, I'll go too. Michiko said hello and ran towards the house. Immediately, the oil girl Yenta and Narakuzu left one after another. Uchiha and Uchiha Makoto are of the same race, and originally wanted to invite Makoto together, but at this moment, a majestic middle-aged man walked over. Makoto, father. When Makoto saw the middle-aged man, she immediately greeted him cheerfully. Xingchen originally wanted to say hello to Makoto, but when her father came, she gave up and turned away. Makoto, did your first trip go well? Well, it's pretty smooth, it's dangerous. Makoto replied, looking back a few more times, only to see the back of the stars disappear from sight. Makoto, what are you looking at? Didn't. It's nothing, then shall we go back? Good. Episode 22. Naruto-sama, that's all I know. Hokage's office, Kato reported a series of situations about the mission to the third generation of Hokage. Well, I didn't expect those people to be so ruthless. The Vortex clan has already perished, and they still have to kill them all, and they don't let some survivors go. The voice of the three generations of Hokage was both angry and helpless. Although Konoha is friendly to the Uzumaki clan, it is impossible to openly contradict several major powers for the sake of a Uzumaki clan that has perished. All they can do is protect the survivors of the Vortex clan. Break, you can settle the Uzumaki Soma family on my behalf and let them settle in Konoha. Yes. Kato had a new task and quit. Tsunade, how's it going? How was the experience of this mission? Hokage narrowed his eyes again and looked at Tsunade with a smile. At this time, the three generations of Hokage are in their prime years and peak state. People are not so rigid, and there is no lack of heroism and courage. He usually indulges Tsunade and makes little jokes with Tsunade. What, didn't I complete the task? Tsunade said a little weakly. Although it seems that you have successfully completed the task, you must have suffered a lot of losses. The three generations of Hokage looked like they were in control. It's not the same to do a task alone and to do a task with a student. Nonsense, although this mission has some twists and turns, it is quite easy to complete. Tsunade didn't let go. Yes, that's fine, I'm glad that you can be a guide to Shinobu. The third generation of Hokage said with a smile, let's change the topic and talk about Shurichi Xingchen. Stars? Well, I've already investigated. Last time, those two shinobi, Hinata Hayashi and Uchiha Fugaku, teamed up to defeat one and were captured alive by us. The other person died at the hands of the stars. Tsunade was shocked. Wasn't Uchiha Fugaku killed? The third generation shook his head and said, Uchiha Fugaku is indeed the leader of the new generation of Uchiha, and I have always paid close attention. But with his strength, it was not enough to kill a Zonnin. Tsunade pondered for a moment, thinking that Xingchen seemed to have killed Naka Shinobu in this mission. This guy, how is it becoming more and more mysterious? Even I am in the dark. The third Hokage glanced at Tsunade and asked, Tsunade, you and I seem to have underestimated the stars. With his strength, he has long exceeded the level of graduates of the same level, and it is probably not appropriate to follow you on a freshman mission. Teacher, what are you going to do? Tsunade heard an unusual taste. Don't look so vigilant, I just want him to join the dark department. Three generations smiled bitterly. Nope. Tsunade subconsciously refused. She became a guide because of the stars. What would she do if the stars left her and joined the dark department? Xingchen has been with me since he was a child. If he joins the dark department, I won't see him for a long time. No, I refuse. When the third generation heard this, he sighed and said, Tsunade, I know your relationship with Xingchen. It's just that people who are close again will not have to get tired of being together every day, and it is not impossible to be separated for a period of time. Xingchen is a good seedling. He joins the dark department, he will get some experience, enter a higher level. You should think about his future. Tsunade was silent, still a little unconvinced in his heart. Can't the stars become stronger with themselves? However, the three generations have talked about the future of the stars, and she does not dare to joke really and be angry. After thinking about it again, she spoke. Whether to join the dark department, you have to ask Xingchen's own opinion. Then of course, if he doesn't want to, how can I force him? When Xingchen returns home, he finds that the rope tree is also there. Brother Chen, you're finally back. I'm so bored. Didn't you go on a mission with Orochimaru? The stars are strange. Go, but that task is too boring. It's actually catching cats for others, my god. Rope Tree asked Sangtian, speechlessly. Xingchen couldn't help but smile and said, be content, it's also an opportunity to exercise. Then again, the big snake pill in this period is really patient, and this kind of task is also accepted. Exercise a hair, exhaustion, can't learn anything. Rope Tree complained and asked again, Brother Chen, what is your mission with your sister? Xingchen just smiled and didn't answer. Although his mission is more dangerous, for ninjas, danger is always more exciting and attractive than catching cats. If he said it, Rope Tree is estimated to be even more depressed. The task is a little tired, I will go to rest first. At night, Hoshi woke up vaguely and found Tsunade walking in with a quilt in his hand. This can frighten him. Is Tsunade going to push him backwards? Tsunade, why is it so sudden? I'm not mentally prepared. The stars pondered whether to obey or shout for help. Tsunade was slightly stunned and asked, You know? You're so obvious, can you still not know? Tsunade thought that the stars were sleeping after returning, and it was impossible to know about it. At this time, seeing his eyes staring, he immediately understood something, and said angrily and funny, What are you thinking about? I have something to talk to you about. Anyway, you've slept enough, talk to me tonight. Even if Xingchen is reluctant, in the face of the strong Tsunade, there is no way, can only sit up and accompany her. Great time, not used to do things, but to chat, what a waste. Xingchen muttered, What are you going to talk about? Tsunade gave the stars a blank look and said, Sarutobi-sensei asked me to ask you if you have any intention of joining the Dark Division. Join the Dark Ministry? Xingchen was startled, and then fell into deep thought. He is now a Naka shinobi, and it seems a little inappropriate to continue doing novice tasks with Tsunade, Uchiha, and Michiko. I am afraid that the 3 generations also discovered something, and decided to let him join the Dark Department. Although life in the dark part is boring, it has to be said that it is indeed a good place to exercise. Xingchen, if you don't want to, I'll refuse it for you. Xingchen shook his head and said, I'll go talk to Naruto-sama myself, and then decide whether or not to join the Dark Ministry. Episode 23. Tsunade seemed to have guessed that Hoshi would choose to join the Dark Division, and insisted that he not sleep all night, but had to chat with him. In fact, Xingchen feels that the more familiar the person, the less topic to talk about at this time. After all, he is not a person who can incite/feel. Besides, even if he joins the Dark Division, he won't leave Konoha, so it's the same as parting with life and death. The next day, Hoshichin went alone to meet the 3 generations of Hokage. After a long conversation, Xingchen finally decided to join the Dark Department. The 3rd generation of Hokage learned about his killing of Shinobu Naka, and was impressed by him, and seemed to be cultivating intentionally. When he entered the Dark Department, he was not a low-level member, but directly the captain of the detachment. In a dark but spacious underground passage, the stars followed a member of the Dark Division wearing a mask and carrying a ninja sword. Captain, in front of you is the base of the 7th Detachment of the Dark Department. I have informed them in advance that members of the 7th Force will be waiting for you there. Even though Xingchen was very young, he was the captain of the dark part directly appointed by the 3 generations of Hokage, and this dark member did not dare to snub, and his tone was very respectful and polite. Xingchen nodded, and then asked, How many organizations and troops are there in total in the Dark Department? I don't know. The stars groaned. Maybe the other party was not hiding it, but really didn't know. Even their own people don't know how many branches there are in the dark part, which shows the mystery of the dark part. You're also from Team 7, what's your name? Captain, just call me Kawamoto. Kawamoto. The stars wrote down the name. At the age of 12, he joined the Dark Department and directly became the captain, and I am afraid that he needs to go through some training to be able to serve the public. Captain Dark, it's not so good. Under Kawamoto's leadership, the stars walked into the empty cave. Although it is lit, it still looks dark. Inside the cave, there were already 3 people waiting. Ahem. Guys, our new captain is here, let's get to know each other. Kawamoto shouted as he moistened his throat. When the 3 people who were originally chatting heard this, they immediately walked over, looked at Kawamoto, and then at the stars, and asked, Kawamoto, who is he? This place, how can you bring children in casually? Wait, Kawamoto, you don't mean to say that this kid is our new captain? All 3 showed incredible looks. Kawamoto said seriously, That's right, Your Excellency Hoshichin was personally appointed by Lord Hokage, the captain of our 7th detachment. What a joke. Immediately, someone couldn't help but be furious. Is the 3rd generation confused, judging by his age? I'm afraid it hasn't been long since he graduated from ninja school, right? Kawamoto said coldly, Nakata, you dare to be disrespectful to Naruto-sama? The man named Nakata replied, I didn't mean that, it's just that he has what qualifies to be our captain. Kawamoto also wanted to defend the stars, but was stopped by the stars. What do you think qualifies? Xingchen stared at Nakata lightly. The captain of the Dark Department has extraordinary significance and decisive status. Strength, wisdom, strategy, and morality are indispensable. Xingchen still said calmly, Then which of these 4 do you think I am missing? Nakata was slightly stunned, as if he didn't expect Xingchen to ask this. If nothing else, it's your strength, at least better than all of us here, otherwise how to lead us? You mean, compare yourself to me? Xingchen said very simply, Then I'll give you a chance. In an instant, the feet of the stars suddenly sank, and an amazing force caused the ground to collapse. Boom, rumble. With a boom, the body of the star also jumped out, the speed was extremely fast, and almost a black shadow could be seen. Nakata's expression changed drastically, and he subconsciously wanted to retreat, but it was simply too late. Because of the stars in front of him, the hand knife was already on his neck. Wow! The blade flashed, and a kunai appeared out of thin air in Xingchen's hand, and the blade almost rubbed against Nakata's neck. You should be glad that I am not your enemy, otherwise it would have been enough for you to go to the prefecture to report several times just now. Xingchen put away the bitterness casually, and turned around and retreated to the same place. Nakata's eyes were filled with horror, his body couldn't help but tremble slightly, and the cold sweat soaked through the juniors. Just now, what's going on? The other two gasped, and their gazes towards the stars had become different. Although Xingchen had some unexpected elements, Nakata was a solid elite shinobi, and he didn't even have time to react. When it comes to not having time to react, why aren't they? Kawamoto was originally very convinced of the stars, and when he saw his feared strength at this time, there was a trace of admiration in his eyes. He is only 12 years old, and he has such strength. How scary will it be to grow up in the future? Naruto-sama is really still as wise as a torch, and he will not let a child serve as the captain of the Dark Army for no reason. How about it? Who still has an opinion, just put it forward. Xingchen said in a stern tone, "Today is my first day in office, and you are allowed to be presumptuous. You may indeed be not weaker than me, but among us, there is one more person who can beat you." Nakata still seemed unconvinced, turned his head and shouted in one direction, "Yuna, are you not here to meet the new captain?" Xingchen was slightly startled and followed Nakata's gaze, but I saw that on the huge stone statue in the corner, there was a woman leaning back. It's actually Shangnan? Xingchen never expected that there was also a member of the 7th detachment. Where the woman was, the light was very weak, so the stars did not pay attention when they came in. But what made Xingchen speechless was that this woman was leaning there, actually reading, pretending, definitely pretending. Although this forced pretense is tacky, seeing that she is a female stream, Xingchen does not think about her. Hearing Nakata's words, Yuna closed the book in her hand, glanced at the stars casually, and said lightly, "Since it was personally appointed by Lord Naruto, then I also recognize you. My name is Yuna, please take care of me in the future." When Nakata heard this answer, he couldn't help but be disappointed. He had hoped that Yuna would resist the stars. Xingchen smiled faintly, "Since no one opposes anymore, then everyone must follow my instructions from now on. If there are more troublemakers and disturbing the military's heart, it will not be as simple as just now." Episode 24. On the Konoha school field, the 9th class assembled. Birthday, Michiko, this time we have a long-term mission and may not return to Konoha for more than a month. Understand, we have already notified the family, ready to go. By the way, teacher, what about Xingchen? Why didn't you see him to gather? Michiko asked. When Tsunade heard this, he seemed a little stunned. Xingchen was promoted to the Dark Department because of his excellent performance. Stars joined the Dark Division? Michiko's eyes widened, both in amazement and envy. What an honor it is for a recent graduate to be eligible to join the Dark Ministry. Uchiha looked a little ugly, and the excellence of the stars was destroying his pride to pieces. Placed with the stars, he can only be a foil forever. Not even a foil. You don't need to be discouraged. As long as you work hard, sooner or later you can catch up with him, and you will also have the opportunity to join the Dark Department. The departure of the stars made Tsunade happy, but since she has become a mentor, she also needs to be responsible for the two students of Uchiha and Michiko. Listen, next, I will use the most rigorous training to urge your practice. In the future, if you don't have a little achievement, don't call me a teacher. When Michiko and Uchiha heard this, their expressions immediately became extremely serious. They could hear that Tsunade was saying this very seriously. This means that Tsunade will go to great lengths to teach them ninjutsu. The Hokage conference room is where the 3 generations of Hokage, Shimura Danzo, and other high-ranking Konoha leaders gather here for a very serious meeting. Recently, Shinobu has been making frequent disturbances on the border of the Land of Fire. The daimyo has asked us Konoha for help, hoping that we can come forward to calm the trouble. What do you think? The 3 generations of Hokage asked everyone. Mito Manyen snorted coldly. The last time the sealing scroll was stolen, it must have been deliberately instigated by Shinobu. Now they are making trouble on the border of the Fire Country, which is undoubtedly a provocation. Do they want to start a war? Shimura Danzo said indifferently, "I'm afraid that Sand Shinobu village really has this idea. Although war is cruel, it is also a means to seek benefits." The 3rd generation of Hokage shook his head and said, "Coming into the Sand Ninja village is indeed getting stronger and stronger, and the war between the 2 major ninja villages is not trivial. You can't wait to ignore it, you must be cautious." Mito Menyen said again, "If you don't want to fight, no one wants to fight. However, you can't let Shinobu provoke and weaken Konoha's reputation. And we can't ignore the daimyo's request for help, but who should we send? Let Tsunade, Orochimaru, and Jiraiya go. They are Sarutobi's students, and they are the elite of Konoha, enough to deal with this kind of battle." Koharu suggested. "I agree. Mito nodded. However, the third generation of Hokage denied, they are not suitable. Why? First, Tsunade and Orochimaru have just become mentors to Shinobu, and there are still a few new students to bring. Second, because the three of them are too representative to let them go, this matter must be handled in a low-key manner. What about Chimu Shuamao? His ability is no worse than your three disciples. The third generation of Hokage pondered a little and said, I think it's better to let the people in the dark department deal with it, and assassinate those troublemakers without revealing their identities. Tuanzong suddenly spoke at this time. It seems that you have a candidate for a long time, so why bother to convene this meeting? The third generation of Hokage smiled and said, say it, let's discuss it. I wonder which team of the dark department you recommend. The third generation Hokage said lightly, 7th detachment. Huh? As a special organization in the dark department, the leader of the route, Tuanzong is naturally more clear about the situation in the dark department. So when the third generation of Hokage said the 7th detachment, he immediately frowned. I remember that the captain of the 7th detachment died in the mission not long ago, right? Rest assured, I have appointed a new captain. They are very suitable for this mission. New captain? Tuanzong wondered in his heart. Without certain qualifications and strength, he cannot become a dark captain. Who will this newly appointed detachment leader be? This new captain is a bit young and underqualified. However, the 7th detachment has Yuna here. I believe it is enough to guarantee the mission. What do you think? Since you've decided, what can we do? At the stronghold of the 7th detachment, Kawamoto, Nakata, and others were bored practicing shuriken throwing. The captain has just died, and the new captain is young. I'm afraid we won't be able to take on any big tasks for a long time. A big mission means risking your life. Staying in the village, dealing with some small conflicts on a daily basis, patrolling, is quite relaxed. Fart, it's so boring. It's better to go to the front line to do a fight. I still admire the original captain. I also feel that the new captain is not qualified enough and has important tasks in the future, and our 7th team must be the first to be ignored and have no chance to show. Just as a few people complained, Xingchen walked in from outside. Captain. Several people immediately stood up solemnly and greeted the stars. Although except for Kawamoto, the other three people were somewhat concerned about Xingchen's age in their hearts, but the matter had come to this, and no one really dared to offend Xingchen in person. Xingchen glanced at the four and asked, what about Yuna? Kawamoto replied, Yuna is not there, she is often haunted. She was also often absent when our former captain called meetings. The stars are speechless. Is this the privilege of Shangnan? Captain, suddenly summoned us. Is there something wrong? Nakata asked, we still have night patrols at night. What is the patrol? Captain, the task of our dark department is to protect the Hokage, defend against foreign invasions, maintain the stability of the village, solve some violent disputes, and so on. Every week it is the various detachments that alternate patrolling the village, and this week it is our turn. Yes? Xingchen said lightly, then no need, give you a day off and rest, and set out with me the day after tomorrow to carry out the mission. Huh? The four of them were all stunned. Captain, what task to perform? Assassination mission. Episode 25. In fact, even if Xingchen didn't say what kind of task it was, the four of them had already begun to get excited. Their dark department, as long as it is a task out of the village, is definitely a very important task. Either scout the enemy or assassinate important people. It's just that this kind of task must be given to a team that is strong enough to make Naruto-sama trust. I thought that after the former captain died and Xingchen took over as the captain, their detachment would be left out in the cold for a long time. Unexpectedly, within a few days of Xingchen taking over, the assassination mission was immediately handed over to them. To say that there is no trick in this, no one will believe it. Xingchen handed a document in his hand to the four people and said, here is an overview and information about this mission, you should read it carefully. I don't want our first collaboration to fail. Yes, Captain, we will definitely not slack. The four spoke in unison, and the morale was very strong. Tread. Just then, a footstep sounded, and a ninja, also wearing a mask, came out of the shadows. Who is Shichi Xingchen? The masked ninja spoke indifferently, and his attitude was even a little arrogant. Find. Kawamoto was about to answer, find our captain something, but was stopped by Xingchen. Who are you? Xingchen stared at the ninja and asked coldly. I'm a member of the route, under the regiment. The masked ninja glanced at Xingchen, with a little surprise in his eyes, and then said, you are Shichi Xingchen? Come with me, Danzo-sama wants to see you. Didn't you see that we were in a meeting? Xingchen said coldly, go back and tell Tuanzong that I don't have time. You. The masked ninja was immediately stunned. He had never seen anyone who dared to refuse Danzo's summons like this. The captain of the dark part is really awesome for ordinary people. But in front of Lord Tuanzang, what is it? Captain. The four of Kawamoto were also anxious, thinking that this captain was enough to drag. But offending Lord Danzo, even if there is Hokage to back up, I'm afraid I can't eat it, right? Shichi Xingchen, do you really want to disobey Master Tuanzang? Xingchen's face did not change color. For impolite guys, I never disdain, don't forget, this is my place. If Tuanzo really wants to see me, Please come to someone who can speak human language. Presumptuous. The masked ninja was furious, and Xingchen was clearly scolding him, saying that he was rude and did not speak human language. Immediately, he pulled out the ninja knife behind his back. The order of Lord Tuanzang will tie you up even if you are tied. Seeing this, Xingchen smiled coldly. In an instant, without waiting for the other party's action, the star still stepped out. This simple step, but directly crossed the distance of several zhang, and instantly arrived in front of the masked ninja. Just because you dare to say such a thing? Xingchen lightly touched the blade with his left hand, clenched his fist with his right hand, and slammed into the masked ninja's abdomen. Pung! As if struck by lightning, the masked ninja immediately flew out and hit the stone wall. Damn it, you! Get out! Xingchen drank heavily. An invisible pressure rushed to his face, making the masked ninja feel fear from the bottom of his heart and his body trembling. At that moment, he did not dare to say more, turned around and ran. Captain, you are too impulsive, something big will happen like this. Kawamoto is both admired and worried about the stars. I have my own measure, you don't need to worry, study this information. Also, if you see Yuna, ask her to come to me, I have something to talk to her about. Did he really say that? Listening to the report from his subordinates, Tuanzang couldn't help but frown. After getting the news from Ape Flying Sunchop, he was naturally very interested in Xingchen, the newly appointed captain of the detachment, so he let people summon him. If he is really a genius, he also plans to woo and see if he can use it for himself. But what I didn't expect was that the person he sent turned out to be fruitless, and it seems that he was beaten. Master Tuanzang, this Shirchi Xingchen is only 12 years old, but he is backed by the Hokage, his attitude is extremely bad, and he even speaks ill of you. Humiliated from the stars, the masked ninja naturally added oil and vinegar to completely blacken the image of the stars. However, Tuanzang is not a fool, he believes that people who can be valued by Ape Fei Ri, even if they are arrogant, they cannot contradict themselves for no reason. Most of them are offended by their subordinates first. Okay, you go down. Tuanzo waved his hand. The masked ninja wondered in his heart why Danzo was not angry, but did not dare to ask more, and respectfully retreated. Master Tuanzo, why don't you let me go? At this time a ninja appeared silently, knelt down on one knee in front of Danzo, and said, for whatever reason, it is as unwise to refuse the summons of Danzo-sama. Tuanzang groaned slightly, shook his head and said, no, I don't have to be so anxious to see him, wait until he can come back alive from this mission. The ninja knew that Danzo-sama's interest in this Shichi star was still in the wait-and-see period. You let Yuna come to see me first. Yes. The ninja disappeared in a flash. A moment later, a plump woman walked into the hall. It was the only upper shinobu of the 7th detachment, Yuna. Master Tuanzo, what are you looking for me for? It's rare to ask you. I thought I would be rejected twice in a day. Even if Tuanzang joked, his tone was cold. Yuna was slightly startled. Does anyone dare to refuse the summons of Lord Tuanzo? It's your new captain, I sent someone to ask him, and he threw my people out. Huh? Even Yuna's temperament couldn't help but show surprise. She was indifferent on the surface, but naturally had some concern for Xingchen, the new captain. But he didn't expect that this young boy was not only strong, but also terrifying. The mission sent to you by the Hokage, presumably you already know? Well, although it is surprising that Hokage will give such a tricky task to our team, I will assist the new captain to complete this mission. It's not just about assisting, Danzo said, pausing in his tone before continuing. Keep an eye on his mission for me, and I want to hear the most detailed report when I return. Are you asking me to spy on him? Yuna hesitated. Forget it, I already have the preliminary information of this person in my hand. But the information shows that he is just a graduate of a ninja school, and it is very intriguing why he suddenly has the strength of the elite shinobi. This? Well, I'll keep an eye out. Yuna could only agree. If there is nothing else, I will go back first. I am afraid that he is also looking for me now. Well, go for it. Episode 26. After a day of rest and relaxation, the stars gathered the party again and prepared to leave for the border of the Land of Fire. This mission is dangerous, and you must be mentally prepared. Xingchen's gaze swept over the 5 people, and finally landed on Yuna. Captain, if you look at me with such sharp eyes, people will be shy. Yuna quipped. Hashichen rolled his eyes. He didn't know what happened to this woman. It seemed that there was no mention of such a Shangnan, probably a character who hung up before the Naruto period. Yuna, in view of your performance in the past few days, I need to solemnly remind you. This mission is under my command, and we must not act without authorization. A team, if unable to condense together, can reveal fatal flaws to the enemy at any time. Yuna ruffled the hair hanging down her forehead and said nonchalantly, Captain, tell you something. Even when the previous captain was around, I was the strongest in our team. When Xingchen heard this, he was not moved, and asked rhetorically, so, should you be allowed to command? That's not necessary, I can only fight, not strategically, so it's up to you to command. To illustrate this, just wanted to tell the captain. I bear the brunt of any danger, and I don't joke with my life. Seeing that the atmosphere was awkward, Kawamoto said in a harmonious voice, Captain, Yuna is just pretending to be a hanger, In fact, she is more shrewd and thorough in her heart than anyone, and she will never make a move in the overall situation. And every mission, she is almost always a great contribution. Kawamoto meant to say good things for Yuna, but Yuna listened and was very angry. Kawamoto, the skin is itchy, right? Who said that the hanger was the hanger? Ahem. Yuna, your temper really should be changed. Change what to change, the old lady will have this temper, and if she is not happy, she will die on the side. It's okay if I die on the side, do you let the captain die too? Depends, are you helping me talk, or are you going to fall into the hole and provoke the relationship between me and the captain? Yuna crossed her hands at the waist, full of shrew. Xingchen saw it in his eyes, and suddenly smiled. It seems that this detachment is not as many as he imagined. In fact, the members have quite deep feelings for each other. Okay, don't quarrel over some small things. If there is no problem, let's go right away. Xingchen's group secretly traveled and left Konoha. 2 days later, they arrived in a small town on the border of the Land of Fire. In the town, they meet the Fire Nation army stationed here. According to the information, the general guarding the border town is called Dirk. He should also know that we are coming to help him. Do you want to go and say hello to him? Kawamoto asked. Nope, one word, but it was both Xingchen and Yuna who said it at the same time. The two looked at each other. Yuna turned to look away again, and said on her mouth, you are the captain, you say. The captain and Yuna still have a tacit understanding. Kawamoto chuckled. Xingchen asked, Yuna, with your ability, it is not difficult to become the captain of the Dark Army. Why has it not been reused? It's not blocked by your aura. If you don't appear, this captain's position, maybe it's really mine. Yuna pouted. Older than Tsunade, she made this expression, and she didn't know if it was suitable for the adjective cute. Is it my predatory beauty? Xingchen touched his nose, indicating that he was very innocent. However, he actually knew that Yuna was complaining, but in fact, he didn't take the position of captain to heart at all. I'm afraid this is a woman with a story. Okay, now is not the time to discuss this. Yuna asked, focus on the mission. Xingchen nodded and said, our mission is assassination, so it is not suitable to show up, even if it is our own people, so as not to make mistakes. Please don't show where the disguised shinobi base is, we can only wait for the snake to come out of the hole. Well, first observe secretly for a few days. Stealth lurking is the most basic skill in the dark part. Sometimes in order to crouch and wait for a target, lurk in one place for days and nights, unable to move, very boring. But this time they were lucky, as soon as it got dark, there was movement. Several ninjas of unknown origin burst into the town, smashed some buildings, and looted some finances. When the army tracked them over, they immediately ran away again. The army is just ordinary samurai, how can it be compared with ninjas? Why don't we shoot? Kawamoto was puzzled. These are obviously small fur thieves, and they must know how to put a long line to catch big fish. Yuna laughed in a low voice. Captain, at first I was afraid that you were young and impulsive. Now seeing you so calm, I am relieved. Naruto-sama's vision is really unique. If it's an exaggeration, wait until the task is completed. Xingchen said, it's time to catch up. In the dark night, several figures galloped away in the direction where the troublesome ninja left before, and disappeared in a flash. On the wilderness trail, several ninjas took off their disguised coats and revealed their true colors. It's boring to repeat the same thing every day. Burning and looting, it's already very exciting. You actually feel bored? If it can be done quickly, of course it is exciting. But the leader ordered us not to confront the Fire Nation army head-on, causing chaos and fleeing immediately. It's like when you are about to shoot, you are excited, suddenly you stop. Don't you hold it uncomfortable? Mistress, your metaphor is really obscene. A skinny man scolded with a smile, and then said thoughtfully, but seriously, with our strength, it is easy to deal with those ordinary troops. I don't know why the leader didn't let us do it. Shoo, it's almost time to reach the camp. There are some things we talk about in private, we must not let the leader hear. Don't worry, we still have this measure. Ahead, brightly lit tents have been lined up, and it seems that many people are stationed. Several people adjusted and prepared to return to the camp. However, at this moment, the cold killing intent suddenly descended, and the black shadow, sword light and sword shadow flickered. Whoops! In an instant, blood splattered. Before several ninjas could react to what was going on, they became night ghosts. After the killing, the black shadows gathered in the jungle again, talking in low voices. Cut, it's all garbage, it's not difficult at all. Stupid, the captain said that it's just small shrimp, and the big fish are in the camp ahead. There are a lot of people in this camp. Maybe there is a presence of Shangnan, we need to plan a strategy. Episode 27. This shinobu really wants to make trouble. Send so many ninjas to station here. Sand Shinobu really doesn't have a face. As a ninja, he actually came to harass ordinary people, and his behavior was bad. They are still somewhat restrained, otherwise with the samurai army, how can they be controlled? Yes, with their ability, they can completely destroy an army, but they never clash head-on with the army, and they still have some scruples and are afraid of falling into reality. So every time they make trouble, they are also disguised. Even if they guessed that they were shinobi, there was little evidence. Whatever the purpose of shinobu, stop them. Xingchen mused, there must be at least one leader on the enemy side. Our target is this leader, and the rest of the ninjas can kill if they can, and it doesn't matter if they can't be killed. Yuna glanced ahead and said, I'm afraid it's not easy to find this leader. It's better to kill them all, saving time and trouble. Xingchen was speechless. Don't be so careless. The other party may have a ninja who is not weaker than you. Captain, you think too much. Yuna's level of upper ninja is definitely a mainstay in Sand Ninja Village. How could he be sent to do such a thing? It's better to be careful in everything, or to observe secretly for a while. Yuna said disapprovingly, Captain, it's good to be careful, but it's not necessary to be too cautious. It is better to let me infiltrate the enemy camp to investigate. With my concealment methods, even the superior ninja of the same level will not be able to detect me. Nope. The stars refused. He always felt that the purpose of Shinobu's trip was not simple, and he should not be careless. After all, this period is approaching the Second Ninja World War. In the original work, the main reason for the Second Shinobi War was the uneven economic development of various countries, and the armed forces hoped to seek benefits through the war. The last sealing scroll, as well as this provocation, may have been preparations made by the Land of Wind or the Sand Shinobi Village to provoke a war. If this is the case, then it is not surprising that no matter how many masters the Sand Ninja Village faction comes out, they act rashly, and if they are not careful, the whole army will be destroyed. So what are your good solutions? Yuna seemed a little upset. Observe for 2 days first. Observe for 2 days? Not only Yuna, but the rest of the people also showed surprised expressions. I don't have any patience for this. How did you become the Dark Ministry? But there is nothing to do. I am the captain, and any action must be under my command. Xingchen said extremely seriously. Everyone hides their location and observes. It is forbidden to act without my orders. Okay, listen to you. Yuna was a little distracted, but she still obeyed the arrangement of the stars. Reconnaissance of the enemy situation is very boring and extremely testing patience. After all, it is necessary to stay in one place continuously, but also to hide it well and not be noticed. For 2 days, the enemy camp was quiet and peaceful, with several shinobi guards patrolling alternately, and ninjas often coming and going. However, the ninja who came in and out in 2 days, the strongest was only an elite middle ninja, and they did not find the existence of upper ninja. Captain, obviously you are overhearted. The other party does not have any powerful roles at all. Yuna asked, 2 days have passed, can we start the mission now? That is, if I don't make a move, my fighting spirit will be polished. It always feels like something is wrong. Xingchen shook his head, I think we should abandon this mission. What? When several people heard this, their eyes widened at the same time. After 2 days of hard work, but in the end they have to give up the task, who will be willing? Captain, Naruto-sama values you so much, I give you the task. But now that the task has not started, you want to give up the task, can't you say it? What the hell are you worried about? Yuna looked at the stars puzzled. Xingchen glanced at a few people and said, don't care what I worry about, you have to listen to my orders anyway. Although you are the captain, we also have basic thinking and judgment skills. I can't agree with your approach. Yuna said, and a handful of kunai had appeared in her hand. Xingchen raised his eyebrows. What are you going to do? Since there is no Shangnan here, then what if I kill it directly? Yuna, we're with you. With the strength of several of us, it is not difficult to destroy this camp, and these 2 days have been wasted in vain. Xingchen's expression sank. Are you looking for death? Are you greedy and afraid of death? Nakata sneered. Kawamoto wanted to say and stopped, but he didn't know what to say. Well, it seems that you will never give up if you don't push yourself into danger, then I'll do it. Although Xingchen felt helpless, since he became the captain, he had to bear the corresponding responsibilities. You? Yuna asked, are you alone? Well, but you must be prepared, and when you hear my instructions, you will retreat immediately. Without waiting for Yuna and the others to be stunned, the stars had already jumped up and rushed out. Yikes! Several shurikens broke through the air, and the few shinobi guarding the perimeter of the camp could not react and died immediately. There is an enemy attack, be on guard. In the enemy camp, there were many lower and middle shinobi, and 2 elite middle shinobi. Sleeve white snow. With a big move, a crystal clear cold front appeared in his hand, and the surrounding air condensed. Second dance, by Lien. The ultimate ice and snow appeared across the sky, turning into a dragon, swallowing the lives of several people in an instant. Secretly, Yuna and the others were dumbfounded. In a short time, a field of ice and snow was created. What kind of ninjutsu is this? The captain is so powerful, let's go help. However, at this time, Yuna suddenly reached out and stopped several people. Wait, there's a problem, huh? Kawamoto asked, Yuna, what do you mean? Without waiting for Yuna to answer, something suddenly happened. Messing with things, how can you be presumptuous? Inside the tent, 3 extremely fast figures rushed out. 2 Duan, 10 miles of wild sand. The 3 joined hands to seal the seal, and the powerful chakra was almost condensed into substance, setting off a huge sandstorm within a square circle, as if it could overturn the heavens and the earth. Although the ice and snow of the stars are extremely strong, their attributes are comparable, and in this huge sandstorm, they also lose for a while, and they are shattered by inches. It's not good, it's 3 upper shinobi. Yuna was immediately shocked. In this camp, there are actually 3 upper shinobi hidden? In 2 days, these 3 upper shinobi have not appeared. Did they already know that they were lurking in the secret, had already laid traps, and waited for them to go in and send them to death? If you really break into it just now, the consequences will be unimaginable. Episode 28. Sure enough, seeing these 3 Shangnin, Xingchen knew that his hunch was right. 2 days ago, the few shinobi they killed may not be important people, but in terms of shinobi, at least show some movement, right? In the past 2 days of observation, I found that the other party was frighteningly calm, and everything was as usual. It is impossible not to make the stars suspicious. And the other party did not make any warning, indicating that the seemingly calm camp was actually hiding a murderous plot, waiting for them to enter the net. Everyone, retreat immediately. Xingchen turned around and shouted at Yuna and the others. 3 upper shinobi, plus dozens of middle shinobi and lower shinobi, are not at all something that a single team can wipe out. The difficulty of this task is definitely S level. Captain, you. After I break for you, don't talk nonsense, go quickly. The stars waved their sleeves of white snow, once again creating a sky full of ice and snow, competing with the wild sand. Although except for Kawamoto, the rest of the team was somewhat unconvinced by him. But since you have become the captain, you have to bear the corresponding responsibilities. Captain, no. Kawamoto was flabbergasted. After a person stays and breaks, there is no difference between sending it to death. Yuna, you have already misjudged once just now, and now you still want to disobey my orders? Xingchen shouted, take them away immediately. Yuna was slightly startled. If it weren't for the stars just now, I'm afraid she would have stupidly rushed in and sent her to death. The trap set by the 3 upper shinobi, no matter how powerful she is, it is difficult for her to retreat with her whole body. I can't imagine that the first time I went on a mission with you, I was saved by you. Yuna sighed in her heart. In fact, Xingchen is the captain, she does not care on the surface, but she still has some feelings in her heart. So before Xingchen's order, she listened to it when she was in a good mood, and naturally ignored it when she was in a bad mood. Otherwise, Xingchen called everyone to a meeting, and she would not be absent. But now, is she still qualified to disobey his orders? Kawamoto, Nakata, retreat with me. Yuna, I repeat, retreat. For the first time, Yuna showed a tough tone that could not be refuted. Compared with the stars, Yuna, who has this expression, is obviously more deterrent. Yikes. Under Yuna's leadership, several people fled into the distance, like galloping arrows. Damn, after waiting for you guys for 2 days, you want to leave so easily? Sato, take your people to chase, we solved this kid and rushed over immediately. Yes, an elite Naka shinobu took the lead and chased Yuna and them with dozens of people. At this time, Xingchen faced the 3 Shangnin alone. Little ghost, I can't think of this team, you are actually the captain, is Konoha a person who has nothing to use? Shinobu stared at the stars with a sneer. Third man, don't be careless, this little ghost's knife is strange, it can release ice and snow, and it doesn't need to be sealed. It's just the left side of the door, what a foot, besides, our wind and earth can restrain him. The stars were calm, thinking in their hearts. With the strength of Yuna's several people, if there is no Shangnin pursuit, it can be completely unimpeded. Thinking of this, he suddenly turned around and fled in the other direction. Want to run? The 3 Shangnin sneered and chased after them. But soon, their faces became a little ugly. I thought that with their footsteps, the stars would not be able to escape, no matter what. But in fact, the speed of the stars is not slower than theirs, and even slightly better. In half an hour's work, they have a tendency to lose it. It's really fucking eye-catching. How old is this kid? Just so perverted. No wonder he can become the captain of Konoha's dark army. Hehe, if you can kill him, Konoha must have been distressed for a long time. What I said is that this guy doesn't have enough brains, and if he runs forward, the immortals can't save him. Then are we still chasing? The head of the 3 people had a deep groan on his face and said, Old San, you stay and continue to chase, and you don't really have to catch up, just drive him forward. My second husband and I went to chase that minions, and it was best to catch them all. Leave it to me, this kid can't run away anyway. Xingchen fled away while paying attention to the situation behind. He wasn't sure that he could go head-to-head with the 3 Kami shinobi, so he bought time for Yuna and them to be on the safe side, so he chose to run in the opposite direction to Yuna and them. But soon, he realized that something was wrong, and the pursuit behind seemed to be getting slower and slower. He carefully tried to slow down, only to find that the people behind him had also slowed down and did not catch up at all. There is a problem, Xingchen had to ponder. Running out of the border of the land of fire, I should be in the land of Kawano by now. The country of Kawa is between the country of fire and the country of wind, so what is ahead? Xingchen broke out in a cold sweat. He actually ran in the direction of the country of wind. Isn't this looking for death? After calming down, Xingchen stopped. Suddenly, he changed direction again and turned back, extremely fast. Although the tracking shinobu had been paying attention to the situation of the stars, he did not expect such an abnormal scene, and the 2 immediately bumped into each other. You. Shinobu looked at the stars stunnedly. I'm not that stupid yet, run to your house. Sandrin was abrupt, and then said with a smile, "It turns out that I figured it out, and it is rare that I can calm down at this moment." Xingchen looked at Shinobu and asked, "Why are you alone? Your two companions? They're chasing your men. I think your guys might all be wiped out. What do you think?" Shinobu smiled sinisterly, "But don't be sad, because you will die at my hands before they do. It's a pity." "Pity?" Sand Shinobu smiled and said, "It's really a pity that you are a good seedling." "I'm not saying that." Xingchen said lightly, "If the three of you work together and let me solve it all at once, it will save me a lot of trouble." "What did you say?" Shinobu thought he had misheard. "To be honest, I haven't been able to control this trick yet, and it's extremely taxing on the body, so I can't perform it easily. But right now, let's give it a try," Xingchen said, and suddenly held the handle of the sleeve white snow knife with both hands, and then fell down. Light ribbon, dancing without wind, lingers around the sleeve snow. Ice flowers, floating in the sky and earth, seem to make both of them fall into a dreamy world. Suddenly, on the body of the stars, boundless spiritual power surged and merged into the white snow of the sleeve. Suddenly, the time was overflowing. In the ultimate light, a continuous sound sounded, gentle and magical. Solution, by Sao Punishment. Episode 29. Shinobu was dumbfounded, and at this time, the stars had condensed a layer of ice armor on their bodies. The knife in his hand, the hilt had disappeared, as if it had merged with his arm. And the blade is not metal at all, but a knife made of ice. Rich and vigorous power surged from the depths of his body, and the stars opened their eyes, clear and sharp, looking directly at Shinobu. "As an enemy, if you see this trick, you have no chance of survival," Xingchen said coldly. "Are you ready?" Sand Shinobu inexplicably felt a trace of fear in his heart, but then he forced it down and shouted, "Pretend to be a ghost. I am a dignified upper ninja. How can I be afraid of you like this? You are not ninjutsu at all." "It's not really ninjutsu, but it's too easy to defeat you." Xingchen didn't say much at all. His footsteps moved lightly, and his figure disappeared directly from the place. And almost at the same time, he had already crossed the distance of 3 or 4 zhang and appeared directly in front of Shinobu. Sand Shinobu. The skate blade is raised high and slashed down. "What, you?" Shinobu's pupils contracted sharply, and the bitterness in his hand appeared, trying to resist. After all, at this distance, it is almost impossible to retreat, and you can only fight. However, Xingchen only said with a mocking face, "The state of swastika has 10 times the power of the state of initial solution. Can you block it?" The ice blade fell, and the sand ninja's Ku just touched it, and it was actually a click, which directly shattered into ice powder and turned into dust. "It can't be. You monster." Shinobu let out a desperate and terrified shout. What kind of oppressive force is this? However, no matter what, the blade of the star broke through all obstacles and fell directly above his head. 1 cut, 2 cuts. In the wilderness woodland, a group of sand ninja is rushing forward. Everyone pay attention. According to intelligence and time, the enemy is near this area. A leader of the upper ninja said solemnly. The other party is the leader of the dark army, the upper ninja level. Don't be careless. No matter what kind of captain he is, what kind of forbearance, run into our encirclement, and die 100 deaths. Another Shangnin said disdainfully. At first glance, there are 4 Shangnin in this 8-person squad, and the other 4 are also elite shinobi. This kind of battle can be called a terrifying level. It turned out that this team had received intelligence that a captain of Konoha's dark department had escaped in this direction, and asked them to come and intercept and attack back and forth. Their goal is the stars. This Konoha ninja is also stupid enough to run to our territory, dispatching so many of our elites. He should be proud to die, haha. The leader also only symbolically mentioned that everyone was careful, but he himself did not show that he cared very much, thinking that it was difficult for the target to fly. However, at this moment, an icy cold struck, catching me off guard. "It's so cold, what's going on? Look ahead," someone shouted in horror. Everyone looked, but they did not slow down, and they happened to see a shocking scene. A teenager who seemed to be wrapped in ice clothes was falling with a knife, splitting the person in front of him, but there was no bloody scene, because even the blood froze in an instant and became ice cubes. "Oh, it's coming so fast." Xingchen slowly turned around, and his gaze swept over the 8 people. "But it is also a coincidence. Without your foil, my understanding also seems to be a little worthless. You are Captain Konoha Dark? Go to hell and ask." The stars once again exerted terrifying speed and moved sideways, and everywhere it passes, covered with ice and snow, any substance, even molecules, will freeze at this moment. This is the ability to relieve by Xiao's punishment. Absolute zero. In the face of absolute zero, the molecules are stationary. How to resist? Boom. Shangnin, or elite shinobi, makes no difference at this moment. They only felt the white light flash in front of them, and then they completely lost consciousness and turned into 8 ice sculptures. Yuna took Kawamoto and Nakata to gallop, feeling regret in her heart. If you follow the advice of the stars and retreat early in the morning, how can there be the current crisis? At this time, they are fleeing to the hinterland of the Fire Nation, and if they can inform the village in time, they may be able to get support and escape pursuit. But the stars are in a desperate situation, with little life to speak of. No, Yuna, we can't just run away. At least inform Naruto-sama and ask for support, otherwise the captain will definitely die. Kawamoto-Q said. I'm afraid it's too late. No matter what, always give it a try. Yuna heard this and stopped. You are right. No matter how faint hope is, you should not give up. I will ask for help immediately. Saying that, she bit her finger, condensed the blood print, and pressed it to the ground. Psychic. Pung. A white rabbit was summoned. Although it looks like a white rabbit, it is obviously a ninja beast, not an ordinary rabbit. Yuna, are you in danger? The rabbit opened his mouth and spat human words. Well, please return to Konoha as quickly as possible and inform Hokage about the captain's situation. In the Hokage office, the 3 generations were checking the documents, when suddenly, the rabbit who had been sturdy, jumped in from the window. Huh? The 3rd generation frowned slightly. Are you Yuna's psychic beast? Yes, I'm here to deliver Yuna's message. Rabbit truthfully stated what Yuna was going to convey. What? The 3 generations immediately changed their expressions. This is bad. I didn't expect San Shinobu to be so insidious, and it was clear that he set a trap and waited for our people to die. Hokage, Yuna asked you to send someone to rescue her captain. As for them, you can get out on your own. In this case, I'm afraid, the 3 generations of Hokage hesitated, fell into this trap, and died 9 times. San Shinobu is carefully arranged. It is not trivial, and sending people over again is likely to be sent to death. And it will even cause a war between the 2 countries. In politics, it is normal to sacrifice 1 or 2 people to save the overall situation. If he were to change to another person, he might really have the idea of giving up. But the stars cannot die. If he died, Tsunade didn't know what he would do. Come man. The 3 generations of Hokage drank in a deep voice. Swish. A masked dark ninja appeared out of thin air and knelt down on one knee. What are Naruto-sama's orders? You go and let Chimu Shuamao come. Episode 30. The message was transmitted, but Yuna and the others did not have any bottom in their hearts. Not to mention whether Hokage will send someone to support. Even if someone comes, I am afraid it will be difficult to have any effect. With unease, their speed slowed down a lot. Now that he has entered the realm of the land of fire, Shinobu should not have the guts to chase after him. However, it turns out that they take something for granted. Half a day later, when they settled in a town, they happened to be caught by the pursuing Shinobu. In this team, there are 3 elite Naka Shinobi, and the rest of the Naka Shinobi and Shimo Shinobu have more than 10 people, led by a middle-aged man named Sato. Oh, let our guard down so quickly. Do you really think that we have no plan for this operation? It is all accidental? Sato leads Shinobu and besieges Yuna and several people on a street corner. This town is almost full of ordinary people. Even if there are a few sporadic ninjas, they are not in the stream. When you see this kind of battle, don't hide as far as you can. Yuna, what should I do? The stars are not there, and several people are centered on Yuna. Yuna calmed down, glanced at these dozen people, and suddenly said coldly, kill them all. Just wait for your words. Nakata said angrily, it's ridiculous that when we are soft persimmons, sending such a few people to want to kill us. Although there are only 5 of them, Yuna is Kaminobi, Nakata and Kawamoto are the elite Naka Shinobi, and the other 2 are also Naka Shinobi. If you really fight, the odds of victory are also 5-5. Ha, kill us, what a big breath. However, at this moment, something suddenly changed, and 2 extremely fast figures flashed down and appeared in front of Sato, looking at Yuna and them with contempt. Why are you here? Yuna's heart froze. Aren't these 2 upper shinobi besieging the captain? Could it be? Obviously, your captain has already gone to Immortal Mountain. Impossible. Yuna vetoed. With the strength of the captain, even if you are not able to defeat the 3 of you, you will not be able to lose in a short time. After seeing the ice and snow power of the stars, Yuna knew that the strength of the stars would only be above her, and if she faces these 3 upper ninjas, she will definitely be invincible, but under the maneuver, she can delay a lot of time. After the stars have a broken heart, how can they fight hard with each other? They will inevitably try their best to maneuver. Obviously a little ghost, you trust him very much. Quizzy-Face Sand couldn't help but sneered. Speaking of that little devil really has some ability, but after all, he is too young, has insufficient experience, and maybe a road idiot. What do you mean? Yuna questioned. Quite simply, after he broke off for you, he wanted to lure us away, and naturally ran in the opposite direction to you. What? Yuna immediately reacted, and the stars ran in the direction of the Land of Wind. Then they only need to send a message to the shinobi village, and immediately a bunch of people will block the front. Don't worry, you guys will end up the same, you just don't know who comes first. I think he'll probably hold out for a while, and you're going to die here. We're not going to sit still. Yuna and the others understood that this was a desperate moment. Only to put life and death aside and fight hard. Even if you really die, you can at least pull a few cushions. Kill. Yuna drank suddenly, and the rest of the people also had a very tacit understanding, breaking through in different directions. Find death. Face Sand couldn't bear it, and then intercepted Yuna alone. He could see that Yuna was the strongest in this team and the backbone of the team. If she can be killed, the rest of the people will not be worried, and their morale will definitely be greatly reduced. It just so happens that my target is also you. Yuna's eyes were quick, holding Kuwu in her left hand, and her right hand was actually sealed with one hand. Tuduan, torrential rain and sand. Suddenly, the ground under the feet of the national character face Shinobu turned into mud, making it sink deep in it and unable to move. At the same time, the surrounding sand and dust flew out of thin air, and the fine sand, like a steel bullet, shot towards the national character face Sand. Konoha Ninja. Actually use Earth Escape, there are still appearances. Although the scene was very spectacular, the national character face sneered again and did not put it in his eyes at all. But using the earth done in front of me, I chose the wrong target. Tuduan, Earth Flow Wall. As he made a seal, a huge wall rose, shooting the dust and steel bullets in the moment. But Earl, is it? What about this trick? Yuna made a seal with one hand again, and an ice blade appeared in her hand, crystal clear. This is... Shinobu was shocked for a moment. Thousands of miles frozen. Yuna's ice blade in her hand was raised, and the sky turned into ice and snow, freezing everything in the surrounding space. You have the same abilities as that imp? Sand Shinobu sinks. This ice and snow ability is very tricky, and must be dealt with carefully. But soon, he was startled again, as if he sensed something. No, this is an illusion, dare to fool me. Face Sand endured the rage, regained control of his chakra flow, sealed his hands, and shouted, "Solution." The wind and sand disappeared, the ice and snow disappeared, everything returned to its original state, and the heavens and the earth were clear. It's really an illusion. The national character face Sand Ninja looked at Yuna, who stood in place without moving, and sneered contemptuously, "I almost caught your Dao. But it's just a small trick of carving insects." Yes? The attack was recognized, and instead of being in a hurry, Yuna showed a meaningful smile and threw her left hand out bitterly. Face Shinobu subconsciously dodged, but Kuwu suddenly turned into a small, invisible needle prick that shot into his head. Secret art, Phantom God Destruction. The national character face Sand Ninja only felt that his mind exploded, and then it turned into a chaotic blank, and the whole person became demented and seemed to be delirium. My secret art belongs to illusion, and it is different from ordinary illusion. If you treat it as just ordinary illusion, this is the end. After Yuna finished speaking, her face turned a little pale. Casting secret techniques is also extremely draining on her spirit. It's too late, it's fast. Yuna had not yet tasted the joy of victory, when a cold front suddenly hit behind her, but it was another Shinobu. Damn woman, die. The weak Yuna couldn't resist at all, knowing that she couldn't dodge the attack anyway. This is the disadvantage of performing secret arts. First, it consumes a lot, severely damaging enemies, and even turning enemies into idiots, but they themselves will also become weak. Second, it is definitely not suitable for group battles. In case the enemy still has a sneak attack, it is almost equivalent to suicide.